Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, I gave the gift of a horrible PowerPoint, as per her request. You want me to bring it? Okay, consider it brought. Teacher won't let me into the classroom? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I gave the gift of a horrible PowerPoint, as per her request. I was at my old job for 2.5 years. In the beginning, I really loved it since I got along really well with my boss, Sarah, and my coworkers, and I also adored the students I worked with. Sarah's the coordinator, number 1 boss, and when our old supervisor, number 2 boss, quit, they hired in our new supervisor, Lydia. Lydia seemed okay at first, just kind of a regular new supervisor, learning the ropes, getting to know the other staff. When she started, she didn't even know how to copy and paste on a computer. A good portion, in fact I'd say probably like 85%, of her supervisor position is to create and edit Word, Excel, PowerPoints for the students to use. This includes handouts we use in a group lesson too. Lydia relied on me a lot when she first started, and still does/did. As time went on, Lydia started getting worse. My coworker and other staff member like me started fucking hating her. I thought it was because Lydia could be so fucking annoying, and it was that at first. She would constantly undermine me/us in front of students, went out of her way to prove something we said wrong. Pretty harmless, but then she started saying racial microaggressions to our students and staff. Not as harmless. So, we moved remotely earlier this year, and it was pretty nice to not have to see her constantly. The only thing me and our only other staff member, had assigned to us was busy work, but it was editing the handouts that we have all edited to fucking death. She wanted these put onto Sway. For those unfamiliar, Sway is like a shitty, defunct PowerPoint creator where you have a lot less options, and no usability. At this point, here's the process for these handouts. 1. Assign to various staff members to create. Rough draft. Go to Sarah and Lydia and get feedback. Edit. Make a Sway, at which point 2 to 4 get repeated, numerously. This cycle continues for at least 3 to 6 times before they decide the handout is okay. Me and Lydia have a small disagreement over Sway, wherein I ask her why exactly we're using this program, it's easier than PowerPoint? Was her reason, but okay, and that I wasn't sure how students could access it since I was having trouble getting her to access it. She then informs me that this won't be used by students. No, what? What was I thinking? They're for her to use in her videos, which were a substitution for our group lessons we used the handouts with. So, I put in all this fucking work for her to use in these videos that maybe 3 students will ever see. Maybe. Eventually, I get this fucking Sway done. I again, do it to the best of my abilities. The next assignment I get, a week or so later, is to take a different handout from the one previously, and make another Sway, or PowerPoint if I wanted. I actually put in a bit of effort because there's nothing else really to do, and I end up making a pretty nice PowerPoint. Lydia links up with me to discuss the PowerPoint. She's been trying to change the theme, but it won't change. I'm confused, but tell her it's probably because that's an imported template, so I don't think Google Slides knows really what to do, since it didn't start off blank, it started off with an uploaded template. She continues to kinda click around, and then says she doesn't like it because the color in the background. That's the defining picture of this template, and I had spent a while making the whole PowerPoint a perfect ombre, so I'm pretty annoyed at this point. She decides that, maybe we can just copy this PowerPoint into a new one and edit that one, smiley face. I explain to her, again, why that won't happen. I've already copied it over from my own drive. Copying it won't do shit. So then, she asks me to keep this PP, but maybe we could make a new one that we could edit? This means that I would have to copy each slide, individually, and redo the entire fucking PowerPoint. I'm truly at my limit at this point. I clarify this for her. You want me to copy and paste every slide onto a new PowerPoint? She says yeah, so we can edit that one, but have this one just in case. Let me remind you that, at this point, this handout has gone through that entire editing process originally, then transcription into a different video/PowerPoint, and finally onto this PowerPoint that I guess she's going to have on the video that she reads off of? I truly don't know. Then she asks, "When's your last day again?" To which I tell her that it was the following week. She laughs and goes, "Oh, you'll have enough time, what are you talking about? So I say, smiley face, sure. I can do that. Smiley face, let me go ahead and make a whole new one for ya boss. Smiley face, let me go ahead and I can comply to this one bub, smiley face. So, I made a new PowerPoint, smiley face. I enlisted the help of aforementioned coworker who absolutely hated Lydia, as well as my best friend who are both very good at being petty, and we just went to fucking work. I used the template Lydia had picked out, which was pretty ugly to begin with, and it has all the same information. I copied the information, slide by slide, into the new one. The thing is that this thing is fucking unable to be edited. Text boxes on top of text boxes that have text, small headers in completely different hidden text boxes. Try to click on a bullet point and it takes you to a text box nowhere near it. It's truly a sight to behold. This thing is so wretched that even I have a hard time editing it. It's unusable unless you can excuse the poor alignment, text color differences, slightly different fonts. My shift ended at 5 p.m., and I handed that sucker in at 4:45. I emailed her earlier that day to let her know I'd been having some editing issues, but I was working hard on it, and just wanted to make sure it was up to my standards. Then I submitted my timesheet and logged out of my email for the very last time. Smiley face, but to get the full understanding and full picture, let me give y'all the rest of the reasons why this was so delicious. When I left, there were two staff, me and my coworker Lisa. Things had started to pick up and her and I were consistently getting appointments. Because I'm not there, only Lisa can take these appointments, and won't have time for any other projects. This means Lydia will be forced to edit this, or use my other perfectly good pages. I'm chronically nice, especially in my job. I stayed out of drama, and just kinda did my job and had fun where I could. Malice from me is incredibly unexpected. I don't need a reference from her and never will. Anyone that knows me and the level of work I put into projects could tell that this PowerPoint was obviously purposely constructed, but I told Lydia that I was having editing issues with it. Not technically untrue, again, because I was having issues editing it. I'm a little bummed I won't be able to witness the fallout from this, as I don't have access to that email anymore and am also unwilling to blow up my spot just yet. You want me to bring it? Okay, consider it brought. This is, quite possibly, one of my favorite martial arts stories. When I stumbled upon this sub, I immediately thought about sharing this, so here goes. I'm a student of many different martial arts, but my favorite is Taekwondo. This story takes place a few years ago, back when I was a 24-year-old second-degree black belt. Background for the uninitiated, Taekwondo has fighting competitions, known as sparring, where participants put on protective gear and kick each other for points. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but I was not terrible at sparring. When I came back from college to my original Taekwondo school, I immediately won all tournaments I signed up for and was internally promoted to assistant sparring instructor. Most of the time, I'd help the lower belts by giving them a mobile target to kick, and help them work on their attacks. I'd also occasionally throw a kick at quarter power/quarter speed to help them work on evading and counterattacking. Many of my students started winning their competitions as well. I typically worked with new black belts. Right after a recent black belt promotion test, we had several newly promoted black belt students begin taking our sparring class. Most started out a bit cocky, challenged a higher-ranking belt to a match, lost, and realized that a black belt doesn't automatically confer additional talent to beat the folks who have been doing this literally their entire lives, and humbly requested additional instruction. These students were directed to me, and I'd help them out. One 18-year-old, let's call him Sparky, never came over to ask for assistance though, which I thought was odd, but hey, maybe he liked learning the hard way. Nope. One of my fellow second degrees, K, came up to me between my teaching matches and tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, you should spar Sparky. As soon as possible. Why's that? It's worth noting that I almost never picked lower belts as partners. Boring matches. I liked fighting people who could take what I dished out, and that was exclusively upper belts. She made a face. Well, I guess we've been going a little too easy on him in practice. He's going around bragging that he's the best. Sparky was listening in, apparently, and piped up. Yeah, 'cause I am the best. I chuckled a little. Look, just because the other upper belts are letting you walk away doesn't mean you're the best, it just means our master instructor asked us to be nice to you today. Just be careful who you say that to, okay? Some black belts would take offense. That's just because you're all pansies. Oh boy, did he just step in it. Taekwondo has a lot of discipline as part of its curriculum, and a shot like that at higher ranks would have a guy doing penitential push-ups for the rest of class. I decided to let that pass, figuring that he was just on an adrenaline high or something. Hey, that's not very respectful. If you're that good, why don't you spar logic? Kay asked, pointing to me, clearly thinking about using me to impart some valuable life lessons via brute force trauma. He flipped his hand dismissively. Please? I want a challenge. He's no good. Okay, now I want to kick this cocky little dollar hashtag, plus into another plane of existence. I kept my cool though. Never know unless you try. I won't go easy on you, he warned me. Full out. Think you can handle that? Dude clearly didn't know that I fought master instructors on the regular. I looked at Kay. You're my witness. Full out, both sides. I looked back to Sparky. Are you sure about this? I'm the assistant sparring instructor for a reason. Yeah, 'cause you're slow. Okay, that did it. I told Sparky to pick me for his next opponent, and took a water fountain break to keep myself from taking him out early. Sparky immediately spread the word that he was gonna kick Logic's butt. To the other students' credit, none of them laughed in his face, but there was a massive crowd by his ring when he called me to the mat to be his opponent. Our master instructor noticed and gave me a weird look. I just shrugged. We bowed in and got in fighting stance. I decided to give him one last chance. Look, I don't think going full out is a good idea for either of us. Why don't we go light contact, and I'll show you some moves. No way. I'm not backing down because you're scared. Everyone around the ring heard that comment. This time, they cracked up. Very audibly. I let him dig his own grave a little deeper. You really want full contact? Bring it. Okay, I gave him every opportunity to change his fate. Malicious compliance time. Ref shook his head and got out of the way. Sparky started throwing kicks like a freaking tornado. Kid was fast, but he wasn't fast enough. I managed to evade all of them, slowly maneuvering to get into a corner of the ring and setting him up for my counter. He probably thought I was backing up to avoid him and charged with a sliding round kick. He slammed straight into my back kick. Now, the chest padding that we wear has a little plastic in it for additional protection. However, a proper back kick can still break ribs right through it, and I know because I'd both received and given broken ribs at tournaments. However, as annoyed as I was at Sparky, I decided to let him keep his ribs intact. Instead of hitting him with my heel, I hit him with the entire bottom of my foot to distribute the impact. I did hit him right in the solar plexus though, and with enough force to A, stop his attack and B, take him completely off his feet and throw him into the opposite corner of the ring. Poor kid promptly curled into a ball and started doing that sobbing thing folks do when their lungs abruptly stop working. Solar plexus hit suck. Don't believe me? Get someone to whack you in that soft spot in the center of your chest where your ribs meet and report back. I've seen people puke after a hard enough hit. Ref stopped the match immediately, of course. My master instructor rushed over, all set to ream me out. Logic? What the heck, you were supposed to go light contact. Every single bystander blurted out Sparky asked for it, at almost the same time. Kay stepped up, bless her, and gave him the quick version. Sparky was being cocky, trash-talked the older ranks, called me out, etc. The master instructor's mouth started twitching. He looked down at Sparky, who was still gasping and sobbing on the mat. Is that true? He nodded. The master instructor grabbed my hand and held it up. Winner. He turned to Sparky as the other black belts started clapping. Walk it off, and next time, be careful what you say. Just because a black belt lets you walk away from a match doesn't mean you're better than they are. Also, most of them will be more than happy to give you exactly what you ask for. He paused. Oh, and 50 push-ups for the disrespect. Catch your breath first. Sparky later apologized and asked for tips. I gave him some, as well as some private lessons, and he went on to become one of the best fighters in our school. He was always really skittish about sparring me though. Teacher won't let me into the classroom? I was in my last year of high school, year 12 in Australia, and back when I was doing school, it was very important that you physically attend class. Back then, I also happened to have severe major depression and a sister who was not good at getting organized/ready to leave on time. We had a teacher at my school who I'd always despised. He didn't encourage independent thought and spent our 70-minute periods writing on the board for us to copy down, just cycling back and erasing and writing continuously, no questions allowed until the last 10 minutes. He was also notorious for not listening to students, and had an unspoken rule that he would lock students out of the class for 5 to 10 minutes further when they were late. Let's call him Mr. Richard, for obvious reasons. Well, one morning I was 5 minutes late to his class, first period 8:45 a.m., due to my sister throwing a tantrum. I knocked on the door and... Mr. Richard, was the bus late? Apparently his only valid excuse for running late to class. Me, no, but... Mr. Richard, you can't come in. Shuts door in my face. Well, after bursting into tears, I decided that his unspoken rule of being left outside the classroom for 5 minutes when one attended late never actually stated one was required to wait outside the door to enter the room when he deigned to let the student in. So I wandered off to the library to find something interesting to read. Apparently, after he opened the door and found me missing, the school had to call my parents and explain they'd misplaced me and why. I was eventually found and Mr. Richard had the nerve to ask in front of my parents and the principal why I A. hadn't told him the reason I was late because you didn't let me say so, and B. didn't wait outside the door because you didn't say so, and I wasn't going to waste valuable learning time that my parents pay for standing and staring at a door. My parents ripped them a new one, and Mr. Richard didn't lock anyone out of his classroom for at least the next 7 years, so my younger brother tells me. It gave me great pleasure to get one up on such a hard-head, infuriating teacher. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.